The Great Hall of the Galactic Council stretched across 3 kilometers of polished crystal, its walls displaying the flags of 800 civilizations. Ambassador Zexhai of the Viridian Empire stood at the center podium, his forearms gesturing dramatically as he addressed the assembled delegates. The Devourers have consumed 17 systems in the past cycle. Zexhai's voice resonated through the translation matrices. Their bioships multiply faster than we can destroy them. We need every available fleet. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. The insectoid Kythera clicked their mandibles nervously. The crystalline Solarans pulsed with worried light patterns. Even the proud warrior race Thrakari looked concerned, their scaled faces grim. Fleet Admiral Korvash of the Thrakari Defense Corps stood up, his massive frame casting shadows. Our combined fleets number 47,000 ships. We have the finest weapons technology. We will push them back. It won't be enough, interrupted Dr. Lysa Thornfield, the human representative. She was small compared to most delegates, barely reaching Korvash's chest. But her voice carried clearly across the hall. The Devourers adapt. They learn from every engagement. Traditional tactics will fail. A collective rumble of dismissal filled the chamber. Several delegates actually laughed. Humans, scoffed Ambassador Velktar of the Hegemony, still clinging to your ancient war myths. Your species hasn't seen real conflict in over 3 centuries. Dr. Thornfield remained calm, her blue eyes steady. We've been studying the Devourer attack patterns. Their behavior suggests what? Zexhai's tone was patronizing. That your primitive ancestors' barbarism somehow applies to modern warfare? The galaxy moved beyond such crude methods millennia ago. The Solarans pulsed in agreement. Humanity's military history is well-documented ancient lore, their speaker transmitted. Fascinating from an archaeological perspective, but hardly relevant to contemporary strategy. Dr. Thornfield accessed her datapad. Our analysis of the Betelgeuse battle shows the Devourers specifically targeted command ships first, then supply lines, then ancient history, Admiral Korvash interrupted. We know how to fight a modern war. Overwhelming firepower, coordinated strikes, advanced shielding, not whatever primitive tactics your ancestors used against each other with metal projectiles. More laughter echoed through the hall. The human delegation sat in uncomfortable silence as species after species dismissed their input. To most of the galaxy, humans were newcomers who joined the Council only 200 years ago. Their reputation was built on exploration, scientific research, and diplomacy. Their military was considered a quaint historical curiosity. The matter is settled, Zexhai announced. All available fleets will mass at the Centauri Junction. We'll meet the Devourers head-on with superior technology and numbers. Dr. Thornfield stood again. I formally request that Earth be allowed to contribute combat vessels to the defense. The hall erupted in actual laughter this time. Several delegates pointed at the humans with various appendages, translating devices struggling to convey the mockery. Combat vessels? Admiral Korvash wiped tears from his reptilian eyes. What combat vessels? Your fleet consists of exploration ships and cargo haulers. We have ships, Dr. Thornfield said quietly. Museum pieces, Velktar declared. Your own records show you haven't built a warship in over 2 centuries. Your people forgot how to fight when they joined civilized society. The Kythera delegate clicked rapidly, which translated as amused chittering. Perhaps they can contribute historical documentation for our archives after we win the war. Dr. Thornfield's aide, Captain Sarah Chen, whispered urgently in her ear. The ambassador nodded and activated her communicator. Earth Control, this is Dr. Thornfield. Authorization Omega 77. A crisp voice responded through the chamber's speakers. Authorization confirmed, Dr. Thornfield standing by. Activate Protocol Lazarus. Full deployment. Silence fell across the hall. Even the translator matrices seemed confused by the unfamiliar terminology. What is Protocol Lazarus? Zexhai demanded. Dr. Thornfield smiled for the first time during the session. It wasn't a pleasant expression. Something we hoped we'd never need again. Captain Chen, show them the readouts. The central holographic display flickered to life, showing Earth's solar system. 800 pairs of eyes watched as massive shapes began moving through space around Earth, Mars, and the asteroid belt. Impossible, whispered the Solaran delegate. Those signatures, they're massive. Ship after ship emerged from what had appeared to be empty space. Sleek vessels the size of cities. bristling with weapons that made even the Thrakari designs look primitive. Carrier ships that dwarfed anything in the Galactic Navy, destroyers that moved with predatory grace. 112 dreadnoughts, Captain Chen announced. 347 heavy cruisers. 893 destroyers. 2,400 support vessels. The Terran Defense Fleet is ready for deployment. The hall was dead silent except for the hum of life support systems. That's impossible, Admiral Korvash stammered. Where were they? Our sensors would have detected them. Stealth technology, Dr. Thornfield explained. We've been improving it for 3 centuries while everyone assumed we were peaceful explorers. Every research station and mining facility was actually a military depot. Every cargo ship could transform into a weapons platform within hours. The display zoomed in on one of the dreadnoughts. Its hull was smooth black metal covered in geometric patterns that seemed to shift and move. Weapon ports lined its surface like the eyes of some ancient predator. But your people, HFY protested weakly. They're diplomats, scientists, artists. They're also soldiers, Captain Chen said. Every human citizen completes mandatory military service. We just don't advertise it. While you called us peaceful, we were preparing for the day war would return to the galaxy. Dr. Thornfield gestured to the display. This is what humanity learned from our ancient lore of warfare. Always be ready for the next battle. Never trust in peace to last forever. And when war comes, make sure you're the most dangerous species in the fight. The ships on the display began forming into attack formations, their movements coordinated and precise. These weren't merchant vessels pressed into military service. These were purpose-built weapons of war, designed by a species that had spent millennia perfecting the art of killing. The Terran Defense Fleet will depart for the front lines in 6 hours, Dr. Thornfield announced to the stunned assembly. We'll take position at the Vega sector behind your main force. When the Devourers break through your lines, and they will, we'll be waiting. She gathered her papers and prepared to leave the podium, but paused to look directly at Admiral Korvash. One more thing, Admiral. When this is over and the Devourers are destroyed, perhaps the galaxy will remember that sometimes ancient lore exists for a reason. Sometimes the old ways survive because they work. The human delegation filed out of the Great Hall in silence, leaving behind 800 of the galaxy's most advanced civilizations, staring at a display that changed everything they thought they knew about their peaceful human neighbors. Admiral Sarah Martinez stood on the bridge of the TDS Mjolnir, watching the final preparations for humanity's first military deployment in 3 centuries. The massive dreadnought hummed with contained power, its corridors filled with 20,000 crew members who had trained their entire lives for this moment. Status report, Martinez called out to her bridge crew. All ships report ready, Admiral, replied Commander Thompson from the tactical station. Fleet formations Alpha through Gamma are in position. The supply convoy is secured behind the main battle line. Martinez nodded, her weathered face reflected in the transparent aluminum viewport. At 62, she had never expected to command a battle fleet. For 40 years, she had served on exploration vessels and research ships, maintaining her military, training in secret exercises that the galaxy believed were scientific expeditions. Communications, patch me through to the fleet. Channel open, Admiral. Martinez activated the fleet-wide communication system. Throughout the Terran Defense Fleet, over 500,000 humans stopped what they were doing to listen to their commander. This is Admiral Martinez. In 30 minutes, we'll begin our jump sequence to the Vega sector. Many of you have never seen combat outside of simulations, neither have I. But we carry with us something the galaxy has forgotten, the knowledge of our ancestors who fought and died to ensure humanity's survival. She paused, looking at the tactical display showing their destination. Intelligence reports indicated the Devourers had already begun probing attacks on the outer systems. 3 centuries ago, our species made a choice. We could either remain the violent, war-torn civilization that nearly destroyed itself, or we could evolve. We chose evolution. We joined the galactic community as explorers and scientists. We became builders instead of destroyers. The crew on the bridge listened intently. These words weren't just for the fleet. They were being broadcast to every human colony in known space. But evolution doesn't mean forgetting. While we explored the stars and made first contact with hundreds of species, we remembered the lessons of Earth. We studied every war, every battle, every victory, and defeat in human history. We preserved not just the knowledge, but the mindset that allowed humanity to survive against impossible odds. Commander Thompson quietly updated the tactical board. Long-range sensors showed the Galactic Defense Fleet had engaged the Devourers at the Rigel system. Early reports suggested the battle was not going well. The galaxy dismissed us as peaceful dreamers. They saw our science ships and research stations and assumed we had forgotten how to fight. They were wrong. We didn't forget. We got better. Every exploration mission was also a military reconnaissance. Every trade route was a potential supply line. Every colony was a fortress disguised as a peaceful settlement. Dr. Elena Vasquez, the fleet's xenobiologist and intelligence officer, approached the Admiral's chair. "Ma'am, incoming transmission from the Galactic Defense Fleet. It's marked Priority Alpha." "Put it through." The main screen flickered, showing the bridge of a Thrakari heavy cruiser. Admiral Korvash appeared, his scaled face marked with battle damage. Behind him, damage control teams worked frantically on smoking consoles. "Admiral Martinez, this is Admiral Korvash of the Combined Fleet. We've engaged the Devourers at Rigel 4. His proud voice now carried a note of desperation. They're unlike anything we've ever faced. Our weapons barely scratch them, but they adapt to every attack pattern within minutes." Martinez remained calm. "Casualty report, Admiral. 30% of the fleet in the first wave, 40% in the second. They're not just destroying our ships, they're learning from them. Each attack is more effective than the last." The screen showed external camera feeds from the battle. The Devourers weren't like any enemy the galaxy had faced before. Instead of traditional spacecraft, they used living vessels that grew and adapted in real time. Ship-sized creatures with biomechanical weapons that could reshape themselves during combat. "Admiral," Korvash continued, "I'm formally requesting immediate assistance from the Terran Defense Fleet. We need every available ship." Martinez exchanged glances with her senior staff. They had expected this moment, but hoped it wouldn't come so soon. "Admiral Korvash, the Terran fleet will arrive at your position in 18 hours. Can your forces hold until then?" Korvash's expression was grim. "We'll try. But Admiral, I need to know, can your ships really make a difference? No offense, but you haven't fought a real war in centuries." Martinez smiled, an expression that would have chilled anyone familiar with humanity's military history. "Admiral, you're about to learn why humans spent so much time studying ancient warfare. Dr. Vasquez, transmit the preliminary intelligence package to Admiral Korvash." The xenobiologist's fingers flew across her console. "Transmitting now, Admiral." On Korvash's screen, data began scrolling past. Detailed analysis of Devourer biology, behavioral patterns, weaknesses that the Galactic Defense Fleet had missed. "How do you have this information?" Korvash demanded. "The Devourers are completely unknown. They came from outside our galaxy." "Unknown to you," Dr. Vasquez interjected. "Humans have been tracking their approach for 5 years. We've been studying their technology, their biology, their tactics. We know how they think because we've fought enemies like them before." "Impossible," Korvash protested. "No species in our galaxy resembles—" "Not in your galaxy," Martinez interrupted. "But humanity has a long memory, Admiral. The Devourers use swarm tactics combined with adaptive technology. They prioritize command structure disruption followed by resource acquisition. They're essentially a much more advanced version of Earth's historical locust swarms, combined with the tactical flexibility of our ancient nomadic warriors." Commander Thompson looked up from his station. "Admiral, fleet jump calculations are complete. We can be at the battle zone in 16 hours if we push the engines." "Do it," Martinez ordered. Then she turned back to Korvash. "Admiral, I need your remaining forces to fall back to the secondary defense line. Stop trying to engage them directly. Fall back? We can't abandon the colonies." "You're not abandoning them. You're preserving your forces for the real battle. The Devourers are baiting you into wasteful frontal assaults. It's classic predator behavior. They want you to exhaust your forces before they press their main advantage." The Thrakari Admiral looked confused. "What main advantage?" Dr. Vasquez highlighted sections of the intelligence report. "Their reproduction rate," Every engagement allows them to harvest materials and biological matter to create more bioships. The longer you fight them conventionally, the stronger they get. Then how do we win? Corvash asked desperately. Martinez stood up, her command presence filling the screen. The same way humanity has always won against superior enemies, Admiral. We don't fight fair. We use everything we've learned from 10,000 years of warfare. We hit them where they don't expect it, when they don't expect it, with weapons they've never encountered. She gestured to her tactical officer. Commander Thompson, show Admiral Corvash the battle plan. The screen split, showing both the current battle situation and a complex tactical projection. The human plan was unlike anything in standard galactic military doctrine. You're not planning a direct engagement, Corvash observed. Direct engagements are for species that have forgotten how to win wars, Martinez replied. We're going to show the Devourers what happens when they face an enemy that never stopped evolving its capacity for violence. The jump drives began powering up throughout the Terran fleet. In 16 hours, the galaxy would discover whether humanity's ancient lore could stand against a new kind of enemy. The Terran defense fleet dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Vega sector, like ghosts materializing from the void. Admiral Martinez watched the tactical display as her ships took position, each vessel moving with the precision of a predator that had waited centuries to hunt. Again, long-range sensors show the Devourer main. Force is 3 light hours ahead, reported Lieutenant Commander Park from the sensor station. They've established a perimeter around the Kepler mining colonies. Estimated bioship count is over 8,000 vessels. Martinez studied the data scrolling across her command screens. The Devourers had positioned themselves exactly as human intelligence had predicted, surrounding the resource-rich colonies like a pack of wolves around a wounded animal. Status on the Galactic Defense Fleet? Admiral Corvash's remaining forces have pulled back to the Altair station. They're down to 3,700 operational ships, Commander Thompson reported grimly. The Solarans lost their entire Crystal Matrix fleet. The Kythera swarm fighters were completely overrun. Dr. Vasquez looked up from her analysis station. Admiral, I'm detecting something unusual in the Devourer biosignatures. They're larger than our projections indicated. Some of the major bioships are reading as continent-sized. Martinez nodded calmly. They've been feeding well. Every ship they've destroyed, every colony they've consumed has made them stronger. Exactly what we expected. Captain Chen, now serving as the fleet's strategic coordinator, joined the group around the central tactical display. The question is whether they've grown strong enough to survive what we're about to do to them. The Admiral activated the fleet communication channel. All ships, this is Admiral Martinez. We are now in enemy territory. From this moment forward, we operate under Protocol Lazarus combat parameters. All crews to battle stations. Throughout the fleet, klaxons sounded as 500,000 humans prepared for humanity's return to warfare. In the weapons bays, technicians armed systems that hadn't been used since Earth's last global conflict. In the fighter squadrons, pilots ran final checks on craft designed according to principles the galaxy had forgotten. Admiral, Lieutenant Commander Park called out, "We're receiving a transmission from the Devourer formation. It's strange. Put it through." The main screen filled with an image that made several bridge crew members step backward. The Devourer bioship's interior was a nightmare fusion of living tissue and mechanical components. At its center, something that might once have been organic had fused with cybernetic implants to create a hybrid consciousness. I am Harvest Prime of the consuming fleet. The entity spoke through a translation matrix that struggled with the alien concepts. You are the species called humans. We have analyzed your vessels. You pose minimal threat to our advancement. Martinez faced the screen calmly. I am Admiral Sarah Martinez of the Terran Defense Fleet. You have entered human-protected space and attacked our allies. Withdraw immediately or face the consequences. The creature's laugh was a sound like tearing metal mixed with screaming. Consequences? We have consumed 17 systems. We have absorbed the knowledge and technology of 8 advanced civilizations. Your allies fell before us like grass before fire. What consequences could you possibly threaten us with? The consequences of making humanity remember why we were once the most dangerous species in the galaxy, Martinez replied. Harvest Prime's multiple eyes focused on her with predatory interest. We have studied your history. You are explorers now, not warriors. Your weapons are 3 centuries old. Your tactics are obsolete. You will feed our growth just as the others did. Martinez smiled, the same cold expression that had silenced the Galactic Council. You studied our recorded history. You should have studied our hidden history. She nodded to Commander Thompson, who activated the fleet's primary weapon systems. The energy signatures that appeared on the Devourer sensors were unlike anything they had encountered. What you're seeing, Martinez explained, are weapons designed specifically to kill things like you. We've had 5 years to analyze your biology, your technology, your methods. We know exactly how to hurt you. Harvest Prime's confidence wavered slightly. Impossible. We adapt to all weapons. We learn from every attack. Dr. Vasquez stepped forward. You adapt to energy weapons by hardening your bioarmor. You counter projectile weapons by developing rapid regeneration. You neutralize chemical attacks by evolving immunities. But you can't adapt to weapons that don't actually attack you. The Devourer entity tilted its hybrid head. Explain. Martinez gestured to the tactical display. Our weapons don't target your ship's Harvest Prime. They target the quantum resonance frequencies that hold your biomechanical systems together. Every living thing in the universe vibrates at specific quantum frequencies. We've identified yours. She paused, letting the implications sink in. We're not going to shoot at you. We're going to play a song that will make your entire fleet tear itself apart at the molecular level. Harvest Prime's multiple eyes widened. You speak of theoretical physics. No species has weaponized quantum resonance. No species except humanity. Captain Chen interjected. We've had 3 centuries to perfect technologies that the galaxy considers impossible. While everyone else focused on making bigger guns and stronger shields, we asked different questions. What if the weapon isn't a projectile or energy beam? What if the weapon is information itself? Commander Thompson's hands hovered over the weapon control systems. Admiral, all ships report ready for resonance protocol activation. Martinez turned back to Harvest Prime. Last chance. Withdraw your forces. The Devourer entity's laugh became more strained. You bluff. If such weapons existed, you would have used them already. We didn't use them because we hoped we'd never need to, Martinez replied. But humanity learned long ago that sometimes you have to become a monster to fight monsters. She looked at her tactical officer. Commander Thompson, activate resonance protocol. All frequencies, full spectrum. Resonance protocol activated, Admiral. At first, nothing seemed to happen. The Devourer bioships continued their advance toward the human fleet. Harvest Prime began to laugh again. Then the first bioship began to shudder. It started as small vibrations barely detectable on sensors. But within seconds, the shuddering became violent convulsions. The living hull of the massive vessel began to ripple and distort as its quantum frequency patterns were disrupted by precisely tuned resonance waves. What are you doing to us? Harvest Prime screamed as more bioships began to convulse. We're playing your death song, Dr. Vasquez replied clinically. Every atom in your biomechanical matrix is now vibrating in discord. Your cellular structure is tearing itself apart from the inside. The largest Devourer bioships, the continent-sized monstrosities that had consumed entire civilizations, began to split along their organic hull lines. Fluids that served as their blood sprayed into space in massive geysers. The screams of dying bioships filled every radio frequency. This is impossible. Harvest Prime shrieked as its own hybrid body began to shake uncontrollably. We are the perfect fusion of biology and technology. We cannot be destroyed. Admiral Martinez watched the tactical display as 8,000 Devourer bioships began to die simultaneously. There were no explosions, no fire, no energy discharges. The ships simply fell apart as their basic molecular bonds were disrupted by resonant frequencies. You were perfect, Martinez agreed, until you met a species that spent 10,000 years learning how to kill perfect enemies. Harvest Prime's final transmission was barely coherent as its hybrid consciousness began to fragment. What are you? Martinez looked at the dying entity with something that might have been pity. We're humanity. And we are exactly what the galaxy forgot we could be when we needed to be it. The last of the Devourer bioships collapsed into clouds of organic debris, leaving the Vega sector suddenly quiet except for the gentle hum of human starships. The aftermath of the Devourer destruction at Vega sector sent shockwaves across the galaxy faster than any hyperspace transmission. Within hours, every major civilization was trying to understand what they had witnessed. The humans hadn't just won. They had made an unstoppable force simply cease to exist. Admiral Martinez stood in the observation deck of the Mjolnir, watching recovery operations in the debris field. Human salvage teams were carefully collecting Devourer biotechnology for study, while medical ships tended to survivors rescued from the consumed colonies. "Admiral," Captain Chen approached with a datapad. "We're receiving communications from across the galaxy. Everyone wants to know how we did it." Martinez accepted the pad and scrolled through the messages. Requests for technical data, demands for explanations, accusations of hiding dangerous technology. She had expected all of this. "The Galactic Council has called an emergency session," Chen continued. "They're demanding humanity appear before them immediately." "Of course they are," Martinez replied. "Dr. Vasquez, what's the status on the quantum resonance technology?" The xenobiologist looked up from her analysis station. "All systems have been powered down and secured. The frequency patterns have been encrypted with quantum locks. Without the specific harmonic keys, the technology is useless to anyone else." Commander Thompson joined the group. "Admiral, we're getting some interesting readings from the outer sensor buoys. Multiple fleets are converging on this position. Not just allies, everyone." Martinez nodded grimly. She had known this moment would come. Humanity had just demonstrated a level of military capability that terrified the galaxy's established powers. They would want answers, assurances, or control of the technology. How many ships? Current count is 43 separate fleets. The Hegemony, the Solar Confederacy, the Thrakari Empire, even the neutral trader guilds. They're all coming. The communication panel chimed with an incoming priority transmission. "Admiral," Lieutenant Commander Park announced, "it's Ambassador Zexhai from the Galactic Council. He's requesting immediate communications." "Put him through." The Viridian ambassador appeared on the main screen, his forearms gesturing frantically. "Admiral Martinez, the Galactic Council demands to know the nature of the weapons used against the Devourers. This technology represents a significant shift in the galactic balance of power." Martinez faced the screen calmly. "Ambassador, humanity used its available resources to defend allied colonies against an aggressive invader. I'm not sure what explanation you require. Don't play games with me, Admiral." Zexhai's tone was sharp. "You completely annihilated a force that had defeated our combined fleets. Those weapons you used, they're unlike anything in known physics. The Council requires full technical specifications and assurance that humanity won't use such weapons against other galactic civilizations." Captain Chen stepped into frame. "Ambassador, are you suggesting humanity should have allowed the Devourers to continue consuming inhabited systems?" "Of course not, but—" Zexhai paused, clearly struggling with his words. "The power you demonstrated. It could threaten every species in the galaxy. The Council needs to understand what we're dealing with." Martinez exchanged glances with her senior staff. This conversation was being recorded and broadcast to every intelligence agency in known space. Her next words would define humanity's relationship with the galaxy for generations to come. "Ambassador Zexhai, let me be very clear about something. Humanity developed these capabilities because we study our enemies before we fight them. We spent 5 years analyzing Devourer technology, biology, and tactics. The weapons we used were specifically designed to counter their unique biomechanical fusion." She gestured to Dr. Vasquez, who activated a holographic display showing simplified technical readouts. "The quantum resonance technology exploits a specific vulnerability in organic-synthetic hybrid systems," Dr. Vasquez explained. "It's completely ineffective against traditional starships, stations, or any purely biological or mechanical technology." This was a carefully crafted lie. The resonance technology could be adapted to target virtually any molecular structure, but the galaxy didn't need to know that. Ambassador Zexhai studied the display. "You're saying these weapons only work against Devourer-type enemies?" "Exactly," Martinez confirmed. "Just like our ancestors developed specific weapons to fight specific threats on Earth. Crossbows for armored knights, anti-aircraft guns for flying enemies, anti-ship missiles for naval vessels. We built quantum resonance weapons specifically to kill biomechanical hybrid entities." Commander Thompson added his part to the performance. "It took our entire scientific establishment 5 years to develop the harmonic frequencies specific to Devourer biology. Without their unique quantum signatures, the weapons are just expensive noise generators." Zexhai appeared to relax slightly. So this technology poses no threat to traditional galactic civilizations? None whatsoever, Martinez assured him. However, I should point out that humanity has similar specialized research programs studying every known form of hostile technology in the galaxy. The ambassador's relief vanished instantly. What do you mean? Dr. Vasquez brought up another display, this one showing research facilities scattered across human space. Humanity maintains active defense research against all potential threats. We study Thrakari bioarmor vulnerabilities, hegemony energy shield frequencies, Solaran crystal matrix resonance patterns, Kythera swarm coordination systems. She paused meaningfully. We've been doing this for 3 centuries, Ambassador. It's how we've maintained peaceful relations with everyone, by ensuring we can defend ourselves against anyone. The implications hung in the air like a loaded weapon. Humanity had been quietly preparing countermeasures against every major galactic power while maintaining the facade of peaceful explorers. Zexhi's forearms trembled slightly. You've been studying us? All of us? Of course, Martinez replied matter-of-factly. It's basic military intelligence. Know your neighbors, understand their capabilities, prepare appropriate defenses. Surely the Galactic Council does the same thing. The ambassador's silence was answer enough. The great galactic civilizations had become complacent, assuming their technological superiority guaranteed their security. They maintained armies and fleets, but they had stopped thinking like warriors centuries ago. Admiral, Zexhi said carefully, the Council would like to discuss establishing formal protocols for these defensive research programs. Martinez smiled that cold smile again. Of course, Ambassador. Humanity is always willing to discuss mutual security arrangements with our allies. Perhaps we can share some of our research findings, the non-classified portions naturally. Non-classified? Well, we can't share information that might compromise our ability to defend human space, can we? But I'm sure there are areas where we can cooperate for mutual benefit. Captain Chen stepped forward. Ambassador, might I suggest the Council consider establishing a joint Xenobiological Threats Assessment Committee? Humanity has considerable expertise in analyzing unknown hostile entities. Dr. Vasquez nodded enthusiastically. We could provide technical consultation for future encounters with extra-galactic threats. Our experience with the Devourers might prove valuable if other hostile forces appear. Zexhi was beginning to understand the new reality. Humanity wasn't asking to join the galactic power structure. They were offering to protect it, with the implicit understanding that they now possessed the capability to threaten it as well. I'll convey your offers to the Council, the ambassador said weakly. Martinez nodded graciously. Excellent. In the meantime, the Terran Defense Fleet will remain on patrol in this sector to ensure no Devourer remnants survived our initial engagement. We want to be absolutely certain the threat has been eliminated. The transmission ended, leaving the human command crew alone with their victory and its consequences. Think they bought it? Commander Thompson asked. The part about the weapons being Devourer-specific? Probably, Martinez replied. But they understand the real message. Humanity is no longer the harmless species that joined the galactic community 3 centuries ago. Captain Chen looked at the tactical display showing the approaching fleets. What happens when they all arrive and start asking more detailed questions? Admiral Martinez gazed out at the stars, where humanity's enemies and allies were racing toward a confrontation that would reshape the galaxy's balance of power. Then we show them exactly what humans learned from studying ancient lore about diplomacy, Captain. Sometimes the most effective negotiations happen when everyone knows you have the biggest stick, but you're polite enough not to swing it unless absolutely necessary. 43 fleets from across the galaxy had arrived at the Vega sector, creating the largest gathering of military vessels in recorded history. The debris field where the Devourer bioships had died was now surrounded by a constellation of warships representing every major civilization. Admiral Martinez stood in the newly established diplomatic suite aboard the Mjolnir, watching the feeds from external cameras. Thrakari dreadnoughts bristled with weapons. Hegemony battlecruisers maintained perfect formations. Solaran crystal ships pulsed with contained energy. Everyone was being very polite, but the tension was thick enough to cut with a plasma torch. Admiral, Captain Chen reported, we're receiving formal requests for diplomatic meetings from 37 different governments. They all want private audiences? Of course they do, Martinez replied. They want to know if they can get access to our technology, or at least assurance that we won't use it against them. Dr. Vasquez looked up from her analysis station. I've been monitoring their communications traffic. The interesting thing is they're not just afraid of our weapons, they're afraid of what else we might have been hiding. Commander Thompson activated the tactical display. Speaking of which, Admiral, our long-range sensors are detecting something unusual. The approaching fleets aren't the only ships in the area. The display showed dozens of small contacts at the edge of sensor range, moving with purpose but staying just beyond identification distance. Those aren't part of any official fleet, Martinez observed. Intelligence gatherers? Probably, Thompson confirmed. Every major power wants to know what really happened here, and they don't trust the official reports. A priority communication chimed through the bridge systems. Admiral, Lieutenant Commander Park announced. Incoming transmission from Admiral Corvash. He's requesting permission to come aboard. Martinez considered this. The Thrakari commander had been the most vocal opponent of human involvement in the war, but he'd also seen firsthand what the Devourers could do, and what humanity could do to stop them. Grant permission. Escort him to Conference Room Alpha. 20 minutes later, Admiral Corvash materialized on the transporter pad, his massive reptilian frame looking somehow smaller than before. The proud warrior who had dismissed human military capability now moved with the careful respect of someone who had learned to fear what he didn't understand. Admiral Martinez, Corvash said, inclining his scaled head in a gesture of respect. Thank you for agreeing to meet privately. They walked together through the corridors of the Mjolnir, Corvash's eyes taking in details of human military architecture. The ship was clearly built for war, but it was unlike anything in his experience. The walls incorporated organic curves that seemed almost alive, while displays and control systems were seamlessly integrated into surfaces that appeared to be solid metal. Your ship is unusual, Corvash commented. Human design philosophy, Martinez replied. We learned long ago that the most effective weapons are the ones your enemies don't recognize as weapons until it's too late. They entered the conference room, where Captain Chen and Dr. Vasquez were already waiting. Corvash took the offered seat, his large frame making the human furniture creak ominously. Admiral, Corvash began, I need to ask you directly, what did you do to the Devourers? I've never seen anything die like that. They just stopped existing. Martinez exchanged glances with her staff. They had prepared for this question. Admiral Corvash, what do you know about Earth's ancient military history? The Thrakari looked puzzled. The same as everyone else. Primitive warfare, chemical explosives, projectile weapons. Crude but effective for their technological level. Dr. Vasquez activated a holographic display showing images from Earth's past. Medieval battles, World War trenches, modern conflicts. What you're seeing are the surface details, Admiral. But human warfare was never really about the weapons. It was about the thinking behind the weapons. She highlighted specific tactical innovations throughout human history. Humans were never the strongest species on Earth or the fastest or the most naturally armed. But we survived because we could outthink our enemies. We developed concepts like combined arms tactics, logistics warfare, psychological operations, and asymmetric strategy. Corvash studied the images. I don't understand how ancient tactics relate to quantum resonance weapons. Captain Chen leaned forward. Because the quantum resonance technology isn't really the weapon, Admiral. It's just the latest application of humanity's oldest military principle. Find your enemy's weakness and exploit it completely. Martinez took over the explanation. Every species that has achieved interstellar flight has overcome certain basic challenges. They've developed energy shields, advanced materials, faster than light travel, but they've all made the same assumption, that their enemies will fight using similar technologies. She gestured to the tactical display showing the destroyed Devourer fleet. The Devourers were incredibly advanced. Their biomechanical fusion technology was centuries beyond anything the galaxy had seen, but it had one weakness. The fusion itself created quantum instabilities that could be exploited. But how did you know to look for that weakness? Corvash demanded. No one had ever encountered biomechanical fusion technology before. Dr. Vasquez smiled. Because humans have encountered every type of hybrid enemy imaginable throughout our history. Biological weapons, mechanical weapons, combinations of both. We learned to analyze any fusion system and find the stress points where the different components don't integrate perfectly. She brought up a new display showing comparative analysis. Look at Earth's military history. We fought enemies who combined different technologies: armored knights with biological horses, mechanical vehicles with human crews, electronic systems with human operators. Every hybrid system has vulnerabilities where the different components interface. Korvash was beginning to understand. So you didn't develop quantum resonance weapons specifically for the Devourers. You developed the analytical framework that let you identify any hybrid system's weaknesses. Exactly, Martinez confirmed. And that's what really scares the galaxy, isn't it, Admiral? Not the specific weapon we used, but the implication that humanity can analyze and counter any military technology. The Thrakari warrior was silent for a long moment. My species has ruled through military strength for 2,000 years. We've never encountered an enemy we couldn't defeat through superior firepower and tactics. And now you're wondering if humanity has been studying Thrakari military systems the same way we studied the Devourers, Captain Chen said quietly. Korvash's expression was grim. Have you? Martinez leaned back in her chair. Admiral, humanity has been preparing defensive countermeasures against every known military technology in the galaxy for 3 centuries. It's not personal, it's practical. We learned long ago that the best way to maintain peace is to be prepared for war. But you've never used these countermeasures against galactic civilizations. We've never needed to, Dr. Vasquez pointed out. Humanity joined the galactic community voluntarily. We've maintained peaceful relations with everyone because we chose to, not because we were forced to. The implication was clear. Humanity hadn't been peaceful because they were weak. They had been peaceful because they were strong enough to choose peace. Korvash stood up slowly, his military bearing returning. What do you want from the galaxy, Admiral? What are humanity's intentions now that everyone knows what you're capable of? Martinez stood as well, meeting the Thrakari's gaze directly. The same thing we've always wanted, Admiral. To explore, to learn, to build, to help our allies when they're threatened. The only thing that's changed is that now everyone knows we have the capability to do those things from a position of strength rather than vulnerability. And if someone threatens humanity? Martinez's smile was cold and final. Then they'll discover what happens when a species that has spent 10,000 years perfecting the art of warfare decides to stop being polite. Korvash nodded slowly. I'll convey your message to the Thrakari High Command. And Admiral, thank you for saving the colonies. My people will not forget this debt. As the Thrakari commander left the conference room, Captain Chen turned to Martinez. Think he believed our explanation about the quantum resonance technology? Martinez watched Korvash's retreating form on the security monitors. He believed what he needed to believe, that humanity has the capability to analyze and counter any military threat, but that we prefer to use that capability defensively. Dr. Vasquez looked at her tactical displays. And if other species decide to test whether that's really true? Admiral Martinez gazed out at the massive fleet. Gathered around them, hundreds of ships representing civilizations that were trying to decide whether humanity was a valuable ally or a dangerous threat. Then they'll learn why human military doctrine has always been based on one simple principle, Doctor. It's better to be feared and respected than loved and conquered. The galaxy dismissed us as ancient lore once. They won't make that mistake again. 3 weeks had passed since the Devourer extinction event at Vega Sector, and the political landscape of the galaxy was shifting like tectonic plates. The emergency session of the Galactic Council was being held aboard the massive neutral station, Concordia Prime, with security provided by a joint fleet that maintained careful distances from each other. Dr. Lisa Thornfield walked through the corridors of Concordia Prime, noting the subtle changes in how other species regarded the human delegation. Where once they had been ignored or dismissed, now there were respectful nods, careful distances, and eyes that tracked every movement. Fear and respect, she thought, were often indistinguishable. The Great Assembly Hall had been reconfigured for this session. Instead of the traditional circular arrangement that emphasized equality among member species, the seating now formed concentric rings with humanity occupying a position that acknowledged their new status as a major galactic power. Ambassador HFY called the session to order, his forearms trembling slightly as he addressed the assembled representatives. This emergency session has been convened to address the implications of recent military actions in the Vega sector and to establish new protocols for galactic security. He paused, clearly uncomfortable with the next part of his speech. The chair recognizes Dr. Lysa Thornfield, representing the Terran Federation, to provide a full report on the engagement with the extragalactic threat, known as the Devourers. Dr. Thornfield rose smoothly, her calm demeanor unchanged from the session 3 weeks earlier, but now the hall was silent, every delegate hanging on her words. Honored delegates, she began. The Terran Defense Fleet successfully eliminated the Devourer threat, using specialized quantum resonance technology specifically designed to counter biomechanical hybrid systems. All 17 previously consumed systems have been liberated, with colonial reconstruction already underway. She activated the central holographic display, showing detailed battle analysis that had been carefully edited to reveal strategic capability without exposing critical technical details. The engagement lasted approximately 4 hours and 17 minutes. Devourer casualties were total: 8,347 bioships destroyed with 0 survivors. Human casualties were 0 dead, 3 injured in non-combat accidents. A collective murmur ran through the assembly. The casualty ratio was beyond anything in recorded galactic military history. Ambassador Velktar of the Hegemony stood up, his crystalline form pulsing with agitation. Dr. Thornfield, the Hegemony requires clarification on the nature of these quantum resonance weapons. Are they capable of targeting conventional starships? Dr. Thornfield had expected this question. Ambassador, as we explained to Admiral Korvash and other military commanders, the quantum resonance technology exploits specific vulnerabilities in biomechanical fusion systems. It is completely ineffective against traditional starship designs. But you have other specialized technologies, pressed the Solaran delegate, their light patterns flashing anxiously. Technologies designed to counter conventional military systems? Humanity maintains defensive research programs appropriate to our security needs, Dr. Thornfield replied diplomatically. Just as I assume all responsible galactic civilizations do. The uncomfortable silence that followed confirmed that most civilizations had become complacent about military research, assuming their existing technological superiority was permanent. Admiral Korvash, now representing the Thrakari Empire's interests, activated his communication panel. The Thrakari Empire wishes to formally acknowledge humanity's decisive action in eliminating the Devourer threat. Our worlds are safe because of Terran intervention. Other military leaders began adding their voices. The debt owed to humanity was undeniable. They had solved a problem that the combined galactic fleets could not handle. Dr. Thornfield nodded graciously. Humanity was honored to assist our galactic neighbors. The preservation of civilized worlds has always been our priority. Ambassador Zexhai consulted his notes nervously. The Council has prepared a proposal for new galactic security protocols. Given humanity's demonstrated capabilities, we believe it appropriate to offer the Terran Federation a permanent seat on the Galactic Security Commission. This was the moment Dr. Thornfield had been preparing for. Humanity was being offered a formal role in galactic governance, recognition of their power, but also an attempt to constrain them within existing structures. The Terran Federation appreciates the Council's offer, she replied carefully. However, we believe a more comprehensive approach to galactic security might be appropriate given recent events. She gestured to Captain Chen, who activated a new holographic display showing star charts and threat assessments. Our analysis suggests that the Devourer incursion was likely not an isolated event. Extragalactic threats represent a new category of challenge that requires specialized response capabilities. Captain Chen highlighted specific regions of space beyond the galactic rim. Long-range sensors indicate at least 3 other potential threat vectors approaching our galaxy. Different technologies, different biological signatures, different tactical patterns. The assembly erupted in alarmed conversations. The idea that the Devourers might have been just the first wave of extragalactic invasion was terrifying. Dr. Thornfield waited for quiet before continuing. Therefore, humanity proposes the establishment of a galactic early warning and response network. Each member civilization would contribute ships, personnel, and technology to a joint command, structure designed specifically To counter external threats, the proposal was elegant. It offered the galaxy protection while establishing humanity as the natural leader of any extragalactic defense efforts. Naturally, Dr. Thornfield continued, this network would require standardized threat assessment protocols, shared intelligence databases, and coordinated response strategies based on proven anti-exotic warfare doctrines. Ambassador Velktar's crystalline form darkened with suspicion. Anti-exotic warfare doctrines? Military strategies specifically designed to counter unknown or unprecedented enemy capabilities, Captain Chen explained. Humanity has extensive theoretical frameworks for engaging threats that don't conform to conventional tactical assumptions. Dr. Thornfield smiled slightly. After all, delegates, the galaxy assumed the Devourers were unstoppable because they didn't fit conventional threat models. Humanity succeeded because we specialize in fighting enemies that don't play by established rules. The implications were clear. Humanity wasn't just offering protection. They were positioning themselves as the galaxy's specialists in dealing with the impossible. Admiral Korvash spoke up again. The Thrakari Empire supports this proposal. The human approach to unconventional warfare saved our worlds when traditional military doctrine failed. Other delegates began voicing support. The alternative to accepting human leadership in extragalactic defense was facing the next threat with the same inadequate strategies that had failed against the Devourers. Ambassador. Zexhai looked around the assembly, reading the political currents. The Council will need time to review this proposal in detail. Of course, Dr. Thornfield agreed. In the meantime, humanity will continue our deep space monitoring operations and threat assessment programs. We want to ensure adequate warning if the next extragalactic force arrives. She paused meaningfully. We would hate for the galaxy to face another surprise like the Devourers without proper preparation. The session continued for several more hours, but the essential business was concluded. Humanity had transformed their military victory into political influence, positioning themselves as indispensable guardians against threats the galaxy couldn't handle alone. As the delegates filed out of the assembly hall, Dr. Thornfield remained behind with Captain Chen, watching the holographic displays that showed the new reality of galactic politics. Think they'll accept the proposal? Chen asked. Dr. Thornfield looked at the star chart showing human space, now recognized as one of the most strategically important regions in the galaxy. They'll accept it because they have to, Captain. The galaxy just learned that their greatest military forces couldn't handle a single extragalactic threat. They need us now, whether they want to admit it or not. She gestured to the empty assembly hall where 800 civilizations had just acknowledged humanity's new status. Our ancestors spent centuries learning that the most effective conquest doesn't require firing a single shot. Sometimes you win by becoming too valuable to oppose and too dangerous to ignore. Captain Chen smiled as they walked toward the exit. Ancient lore strikes again? Ancient lore, Dr. Thornfield confirmed, with a modern application. The galaxy dismissed human military history as primitive. Now they're going to live under the protection of principles that are 10,000 years old and still evolving. 6 months after the Battle of Vega Sector, Admiral Sarah Martinez stood in the command center of the newly constructed Deep Space Monitoring Station Omega-7, humanity's most advanced outpost on the galactic rim. The station was officially a joint project of the Galactic Early Warning Network, but everyone understood it was primarily a human installation built with human technology. Through the massive, transparent aluminum viewports, she could see the joint fleet assembled for the galaxy's first coordinated extragalactic patrol. Sleek human destroyers flew alongside Thrakari battlecruisers, hegemony crystal ships, and vessels from dozens of other civilizations. It was the most diverse military force ever assembled, and it answered to a human command structure. Admiral, Commander Thompson reported from his expanded tactical station. Long-range sensors are detecting the anomaly we've been tracking. It's definitely artificial and definitely not from this galaxy. Dr. Elena Vasquez, now serving as Director of Xenological Threats Assessment, looked up from her analysis console. Preliminary scans suggest a completely different technological base than the Devourers. No biological components, but the energy signatures are unlike anything in our databases. Martinez nodded, unsurprised. The galaxy had accepted humanity's warning about multiple extragalactic threats, and now those warnings were proving accurate. Size and composition? Single vessel, Thompson reported. but it's massive, roughly moon-sized. The construction appears to be some kind of exotic matter lattice. It's not moving toward any inhabited systems, just observing. Captain Chen joined the group around the Central Command Station. As humanity's new director of galactic strategic operations, she coordinated between human forces and the Allied fleets. Think it's a scout? Chen asked. Most likely, Dr. Vasquez replied. Different species, different approach than the Devourers. They're studying us before making any moves. Martinez activated the fleet communication system. All ships, this is Admiral Martinez. We have confirmed contact with an unknown extragalactic entity. All vessels are to maintain defensive formations and await further orders. The response was immediate. Throughout the joint fleet, species that had once commanded their own military destinies now looked to human leadership for guidance. It was a transformation that still amazed Martinez, not through conquest or coercion, but through competence and necessity. Admiral, Lieutenant Commander Park announced, we're receiving a transmission from the unknown vessel. It's complex. Put it through. The main display activated, showing an entity that defied easy description. It appeared to be made of geometric patterns that shifted and recombined constantly, creating the impression of vast intelligence housed in crystalline mathematics. I am the observer entity, designated Primary 7 of the analytical collective, the being, spoke through translation matrices that struggled with concepts that had no biological analogs. We have come to assess the military capability that eliminated the consuming swarm in this galaxy. Martinez stepped forward. I am Admiral Sarah Martinez, commanding the Galactic Early Warning Network. You're referring to the biomechanical entities we destroyed at Vega Sector? Correct. The consuming swarm had successfully absorbed 17 galactic civilizations before encountering this galaxy. Their elimination suggests military capabilities worthy of evaluation. Dr. Vasquez exchanged glances with the command staff. This entity was clearly more advanced than the Devourers, but it seemed focused on analysis rather than consumption. What kind of evaluation? Martinez asked carefully. The geometric patterns shifted more rapidly. The analytical collective catalogs military capabilities throughout the local galactic cluster. Species that demonstrate sufficient technological advancement receive an offer to join our alliance. Species that do not are marked for eventual absorption by our client forces. The threat was politely worded but unmistakable. This was another form of galactic conquest, rule through technological superiority rather than biological consumption. And if we decline your offer? Then this galaxy will be designated for resource harvesting by entities, similar to the consuming swarm. The collective maintains many such client forces for managing inferior civilizations. Martinez looked at the tactical display showing the massive alien vessel. It was alone, confident that its technological superiority made escorts unnecessary. I see. And what would joining your collective involve? Submission to our analytical frameworks, adoption of standardized technologies, cessation of independent research into exotic physics, integration into our hierarchical command structure. Captain Chen stepped forward. In other words, slavery with better technology. The observer entity's patterns flickered with what might have been amusement. And crude interpretation, but not entirely inaccurate. The collective has found that most species are incapable of responsible advancement. Guidance is necessary for their own protection. Martinez nodded as if considering the offer. May I discuss this with my allies? You may confer with the other species in your galaxy. However, be aware that our evaluation is primarily concerned with human capabilities. The other civilizations would be included only as client species under human administration. The entity had done its homework. It understood that humanity now held dominant military influence in the galaxy. We'll need some time to reach a decision, Martinez said. Acceptable. You have one standard galactic rotation. After that period, we will assume you have chosen resistance and will summon appropriate client forces. The transmission ended, leaving the command center in tense silence. Commander Thompson was the first to speak. Admiral, our analysis of that ship suggests technology at least 2 centuries ahead of our most advanced systems. If they have client forces as powerful as the Devourers, they don't, Dr. Vasquez interrupted. Did you notice the tactical error they made? Martinez smiled grimly. They came alone. Exactly, Dr. Vasquez continued. They're so confident in their technological superiority that they didn't consider alternative threat models. just like every other enemy humanity has ever faced. Captain Chen was already accessing tactical databases. They scanned our ships, analyzed our technology, and concluded they understood our capabilities. Classic mistake. Martinez activated the priority communication system. All ships prepare for Operation Ancient Echo. Dr. Vasquez, initiate Protocol Pandora. Throughout the joint fleet, crews that had trained for months in human tactical doctrines sprang into action. The Thrakari ships began reconfiguring their weapon systems. Hegemony vessels activated previously unknown defensive arrays. Even the smaller ships from minor civilizations revealed hidden capabilities. Admiral, Thompson reported, all ships confirm ready for Ancient Echo deployment. Dr. Vasquez's hands flew over her console. Protocol Pandora is active. Quantum masking fields are online. Harmonic resonance generators are charged. Martinez looked at the tactical display showing the observer entity's massive vessel, sitting in space like a moon-sized target that had no idea what was about to hit. The analytical collective makes the same mistake. As every other technologically advanced species, she said to her command staff, they assume that superior technology automatically means superior strategy. She opened communications to the entire galactic fleet. All ships, this is Admiral Martinez. Today we're going to teach another extragalactic entity the same lesson we taught the Devourers. Advanced technology means nothing if you don't understand the mind wielding it. The joint fleet began moving into attack formation, not the straightforward assault patterns favored by galactic military doctrine, but the complex, multi-layered strategies that humanity had refined over millennia of warfare. They studied our ships and our weapons, Martinez continued, but they didn't study our history. They don't know how humans fight when survival is at stake. They're about to learn why the galaxy's ancient lore about human warfare isn't lore at all. It's an instruction manual. Commander Thompson looked up from his tactical display. Admiral, the observer entity is scanning our formation. Their weapon systems are activating. Martinez watched as 800 allied ships prepared to demonstrate that military superiority wasn't about having the best technology, it was about having the best warriors using that technology. Then let's give them something to observe, she said calmly. All ships commence Ancient Echo. Show them what happens when you threaten. A galaxy protected by the species that wrote the book on impossible victories. The battle that followed would be remembered across the galaxy as the day humanity proved that some ancient lore never becomes obsolete. It just waits for the right moment to remind the universe why it survived when everything else was forgotten. The observer entity's final transmission, recorded for posterity, consisted of a single word repeated across all frequencies: impossible. But for humanity, the impossible was just another word for Tuesday.